Point is that you could legitimately say that bigger orders, like doing a big grazing table or trying to set up, sell things for, big catering event or whatever it is that you're going to do as far as whatever you sell, it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have bigger profit, right? Because I mean, you assume that, oh, it's going to be, I got a grazing table that's 8 feet long, and I'm going to make way more money on that. And the truth of the matter is, you can make way more money, but the reality is, are you really doing that when you add in the amount of time, right?
Yeah, right.
And that you're putting into it, right? So, and how, and again, like you said, I think it's really important to know is like, do you have time to do it?
Mhm.
Because welcome to the Charcuterie and Cottage Biz podcast, the show for makers, bakers, and food creators ready to turn their kitchen skills into real income without all the overwhelm. We're your hosts, Andrea and Patty, the Grazing Biz Sisters, a professionally trained chef and a multi-million-dollar marketing strategist with over 60 years combined experience helping entrepreneurs start, price, market, and grow profitable food businesses. Whether it's a side hustle or a full-time dream, you're in the right place. Now, let's start the show. Hey, 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 we're back. Somebody's been traveling and sick.
Yeah.
Sorry you weren't feeling good, but we've missed you. What you been up to, sister?
Well, I went to Disneyland with
Yay.
my kids and all my littles, and it was chaotic fun, as I like to call it. At some point, I had to like take a break and go out and do my own thing all by myself, and the kids were like all worried that I was just hating every minute of it. I'm like, no, I just need my space.
I've
Needed
had
an
enough of
hour of
you.
just an hour of doing me, not you.
Yeah.
But no, it was great. And but the only bad thing was is I had somebody come and work on my deck. I had a deck built this while I
While
was
you were
gone,
gone.
and so I was telling him. He goes, "Oh, you got the Disneyland flu." So now that's what we're calling it. I ended up with the flu, came home with
Oh,
it, and have been sick for literally a week. So
oh,
if
glad you
I
feel
sound
like
a
you can
little
still hear
funky,
it a little in your voice.
yeah, yeah. And if I have to stop and blow my nose, please pardon that because
Yeah.
it's still draining.
Well, at least you're not
Uh,
having to stop to throw up.
no, I did
Which
that
you already
for a
did
couple
that.
of days in the beginning, so
Yeah.
glad that's over with. It's interesting. I looked up what the flu symptoms were for this particular flu season, and the reason I knew it was the flu is because it makes you tired, like
Uh-huh.
outrageously tired. And all I did was sleep for the first 3 days, so now I have a backache. I can't win.
Oh.
So anyway,
Well,
but it
we're
was still,
glad you're
worth
back.
it.
I missed you. And we just, for those of you who don't know, we just spent about an hour and a half just getting caught up before we even
Yeah,
got on here.
because we haven't
Uh,
talked
we haven't
in
talked because you've been gone and sick, and I've been busy, and there's a lot
right.
going on. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're glad to be back. Thank you for having patience with us this beginning of the year. We're just ramping up, got lots of fun things planned for everybody. So today, actually, we were talking about it because we've got some holidays coming up. So we always kind of like, all right, what are we going to discuss? What are people asking? What kind of help do people need? And we see a lot of posts out there for the holidays and weddings and things happening. So we thought today we'd spend a little bit of time talking about the difference between setting up for like big orders. And again, this is going to go toward anybody who's in the charcuterie and or cottage business, right? Either one. It's hopefully will be, we may hit a little on, lean on something a little more. But if you're not a charcuterie business owner, but you're a cottage business owner, the tips and advice and stuff that we talk about should help you either way. And we might talk about it more toward the charcuterie side because it makes more sense for that discussion, but it can still apply. So just keep that in mind as we're going through. But I've been seeing a lot of stuff in the groups about, I want to set up a big old like, charcuterie table at a wedding. Does it make sense for me to do that versus just kind of doing more smaller type items? And I think this would go if you were somebody that were able to cater for your baked goods for big events, so that kind of stuff, or, whatever. It's always a challenge because in Arizona, as some of you might know, our cottage business, our cottage license here allows us to sell anything here. We can
Mhm.
sell anything as long as it's not booze or marijuana or shellfish, weirdly enough.
Mhm.
So reality is we really have to kind of pull ourselves back because we can do a lot of this stuff from our houses here. So for anybody who's listening to that, if you go into a group and you see anyone say I'm in Arizona and you start telling them they cannot do this, you're wrong because you can do a lot of this stuff from home,
Hmm.
but it is dependent on whether or not you're wrapping and preparing and labeling at home. So that's
Right.
a cottage food license still requires that here in Arizona. So you can't just go and set up at an event and then make everything at home and bring it without it being labeled and packaged.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's, I'm not going to get into too deep on that, but the reality is most of our cottage food licenses around the country all require you to label and package at home and only do it in your designated kitchen at home,
Right.
depending on what you're allowed to make, right? So anyway, what we want to talk about is like, does it make sense for you to do big orders or with high volumes or sell smaller things with high volume sales? And then which model is probably going to be more profitable for you? And honestly, I think it's really a matter of, where you're at and what you're making, which
Right.
we love talking about stuff to make.
Yeah,
So
we do. We just got done talking about that
we
for
did. We'll bring that
half
up because I
hour.
think what our discussion about what we think would be a great thing to sell. But anyway, so let's start with this. I guess the first question I want to ask, and let me ask you, Andrew, should you chase large custom orders or focus on selling higher volumes or smaller items? So, I mean, you sell more of a smaller item, that's easier maybe to create.
Hmm.
But again, I think it's really dependent on what you're making. That's my
It
two
does.
cents. But,
Yeah.
and how hard you want to work. So why don't you, start us off and give me your two
Well, I
cents
mean,
on what you think.
yeah, it is all relative. First of all, I always tell people that you have to get out there and just start doing it. I know I say that over and over again because the only way you're ever going to develop your business is until there's no out the gate reality. Like there's no out the gate, I'm going to get everything right the first time out.
Right.
Or even the second time out or however many times out. It all develops on its own based on your personality, your work ethic, the time you have, the
Time
kind
you
of
have.
customers that you want. So there's no right or wrong way as we move through this conversation. But what I will say is that my personal experience is I like making smaller things in volume, only because I just do better that with that. But that's me. That's how my business developed over time. In the state of Arizona, as we've talked about, or really anywhere when you want to package up charcuterie or baked goods or whatever, you're going to bake them in, you're going to make them in 4 or 5 packs, or you're going to make smaller charcuterie trays, wrap them up and go and deliver them, however you're going to do it. For me personally, it's about the amount of work that goes into that. There's
Right.
just there's a lot less stress in that versus doing like a grazing board or a grazing table, for
Table.
example,
Yeah.
or which we're just about to do one
Yeah.
actually next month, which is fine. We do book those. Patty and we do book those. It's not our favorite thing to do, but we do book them.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all customized. You can't just say this is what it's going to be and it's going to be the same every time. I will tell you that when we go to put this together, it will look entirely different than the one I may have done 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So, and that's just because it depends on product and what's available and, what
Right.
we've discussed
I
with
guess the
customers.
point is that you could legitimately say that bigger orders like doing a big grazing table or trying to set up sell things for, big catering event or whatever it is that you're going to do as far as whatever you sell. It doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have bigger profit, right? Because I mean, you assume that, oh, it's going to be, I got a grazing table that's 8 feet long, and I'm going to make way more money on that. And the truth of the matter is, you can make way more money, but the reality is, are you really doing that when you add in the amount of time,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And that you're putting into it, right? So, and how, and again, like you said, I think it's really important to know is like, do you have time to do it?
Hmm.
Because You know, you and I have talking about this event that's coming up, which happens to be a wedding, and we are okay, Andrew, you got to get down here from Northern Arizona on Friday. So just for you to leave your house and
Yeah.
get down here, because it's in the Phoenix area, is just gonna take time. I mean, that's time in itself to get here and have to stay with me, but
Right. I mean,
um,
that's not a bad thing,
that's not a
but
bad thing. But I'm
so we
saying
have a
that's
lot of
time
prep we
invested,
got to,
right?
yes.
So,
That short amount of time, we've got to get the shopping done. We've got to, get
yeah,
the prep work done, which we can't do until we get on site because that's the rules we have here. So there's all these procedural
yeah.
things that have to happen. So in the end, it ends up being what I would say very much more stressful than building your smaller boards and selling them out and let's say doing six of those a day versus doing one wedding for 170 people.
Right.
Right. Again, it's about how you develop your business, but we will do both and then plan accordingly.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, the cost is still the same. The prep is still the same. It's all dependent on your personality and what you want to sell. It's
Right.
it's not an easy, you can't say I'm only going to do this one way and that's all I'm ever going to do.
I think there's so much to be said too about just like you said, what do you want it to be? What do you want your business to be? Because if you want that stress, I'll give you an example. There is in my business, in the marketing business, there is a term where we talk about a service-based business versus a passive business. And a passive
Mhm.
business, say a digital type download type somebody could buy versus, oh, you want to hire me to do and manage your Facebook ads. That's service business related. And so there's so much more. And so what happens as a result of service-based businesses, so in this case, setting up a big I'm comparing it to setting it up a big 8 foot charcuterie grazing table because we are basically having to serve it or we need to show up and be there for a charcuterie cart all day service
Yeah.
based much more service based than I'm just going to whip them up at my home and wrap them up and then put them on the internet and sell them because I just do this in my sleep, right? There's so much more thought when someone's paying you more money, there's more stress involved, to be quite honest with you. And that's exactly what this service-based thing is. It's if I'm going to charge, $5,000 to just manage your Facebook ads, I'm not saying I'm doing that, but I'm saying that I know that happens. That stress that you bring on yourself to because you're getting paid so much is you don't definitely want to let them down. I mean, not to say that you wouldn't let them down at a, $100 charcuterie, board or, 2 dozen cupcakes, but it's less investment on your customer's side. And so you don't feel as, you know, I guess, overly committed to be going way out of your way. And I think we don't think about that stress level that comes in with it when somebody's paying you more money. I know from my own experience doing this now. I did a memorial last month at a cart, and we were singing at the same time, which is a whole nother story I didn't even talk to you about. But that was a lot involved with that to be prepared for it because I didn't want to let them down, because we were so involved in this event. Yet, if they had said, "Oh, I just want," they were going to have 50 people there. Can you just create me a nice big size board or whatever that you could just drop off? I mean, there's that mentality, right? Do you feel the same way if it was something where I was just making it home and I was much more relaxed at home and I could just do a really good job
Yeah.
on it and then drop it off and then take off, and they would still be happy with it, but a lot less stress than me having to set up,
Yeah.
$3,000 grazing table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I meant by what I was saying is
Yes,
that the stress level, I mean, I'm already kind of stressing out over this 170 because we don't do a ton of these really big
right.
grazing tables. And that's mostly because our time, we both have so many other things going on that we
Yeah.
can't always fit that kind of event in. But this one was a special one, and somebody asked us, that we're
Hmm.
related to. And so we're going to go in and do it. And I'm already kind of stressing out about it, planning tentatively in my head, and we're a month away. So
Right.
that's just a perfect example of, yes, it's going to be stressful getting it built. And once we get it done, it's going to be beautiful. And I'm not
Oh,
even
there's no
remotely
doubt.
worried about that.
Yeah.
But it's still, the anticipation of the whole process building up to it is stressful. And when you just build, let's say, like you said, a 50-person tray and you just dump and run, as I like to call it, so it's wrapped up, it's got a label, you dump it and you run, I
You're
mean,
gone.
it's,
Yeah, you're done. No stress. All done. Get in the car.
yeah,
Gone.
yeah,
Right. No
you don't have to
worries.
go back,
You hope.
because you put it on a disposable thing and gave them, dollar store utensils and they're good to go. So it's all relative. But anyways, that's what we're here to kind of help
Yeah, to
you.
kind of
We
you
can't
kind of
tell you how to do it, but we can tell you that these are the way that you could do it,
right.
you know.
Well, things you need to think about when you're really getting your business set up because there are different ways to do it. You don't have to stress out. In fact, I was just telling Andrea, I've started, she was gone and I'm starting to learn how to make sourdough because a friend of mine gave me some sourdough starter. So, of course, now I'm on that kick. This is Patty, like squirrel.
Yeah.
But I was making sourdough dough stuff like crazy this week, and I thought, God, those people, and I know we've got sourdough people on here. I give you so much credit. It's not like it's hard. It's time consuming because you can't just go, hey, I want to get up and make some cupcakes and get them done in an hour. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. I don't know how people do it. I mean, and they want to sell like 10 loaves or 20 loaves or
Yeah.
whatever. They know they're doing an event on the weekend. And when you sell out, you sell out. So that's good. But I would still be like, I'm going to lose money if I don't make a lot. Hey friends, it's Patty here. Before we get back into the episode, I've got something really tasty for you. If you're dreaming about starting or growing your home-based food or charcuterie business, we've put together a whole bundle of free resources just for you, including calculators, marketing guides, AI prompts, our free Facebook group, everything you need to get yourself up and running as fast as possible. Oh, and don't miss our free webinar training on how to launch your business the smart way. You can grab it all at grazingbiz.com/resources. That is grazingbiz.com/resources. Oh, and if you're loving the value we bring you each week, do me a huge favor. Make sure to follow the show, hit us up with a 5-star rating, and share this podcast with someone who needs a little nudge to start their own food business journey. Your thoughtful follow and ratings help move our little podcast up the ranks of podcast land and gives us even more incentive to keep providing you even more food business success tips, advice, and resources. Thanks so much. We appreciate you. Alrighty, let's dive back into the rest of the podcast. So I
Yeah.
might, because you'll sell out, right? So um, anyway, it's interesting to me. So that's also a little bit stressful because if you say I'm going to show up at this market on the weekend and I need to make certain number of loaves, number one, not know whether or not I'm going to sell them all. And then all the work you have to put into them, especially if you're just working out of your home kitchen and you have one oven, this doesn't happen. I mean, there's a lot of baking that's going on. Yeah, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't stick these, Dutch, you can only stick a few Dutch ovens in your oven. I mean, just from
Right.
my own experience. So, unless I want to bury them out in the, they do this, throw the Dutch ovens in the ground, which you just kind of could
Oh.
just do that, I guess. Have you seen that? Where you can bake in the ground? Yeah,
Most of the people that I watch on TikTok that do this in mass production to some extent, they actually have like a
bigger
a
oven.
bakery part of their house, so they go and they
Yes.
buy the commercial stuff and they've
Yeah.
got it all set up commercially, but it's in their house or in a shed or
Right.
whatever. The people that are doing this like for real business and not a side hustle. So more anyway, with that said, sourdough is a time consuming thing and I have zero patience for it. So more power to
To
those
people
that
that do it. Yeah, you don't like to bake
yeah,
in general,
absolutely.
let alone deal
I
with
don't. I
sourdough.
don't even like to make cupcakes. So, where I'm at
See,
with it.
now that's where you have probably heard us say that's where we differ because I absolutely love to bake. And the problem is that I have a husband who likes to eat it all, and me too,
Yes.
but he does not need to be eating all the sweets and all of the stuff. So I have to be careful with that. But and I'm, diabetic too, so I got to be careful with my
Yeah.
myself. But those who bake can't eat. Well, I mean, I don't have to make up something for that. But anyway, so I guess the key would be you got to determine, do you want, what kind of model do you want? I don't, you could offer, obviously different versions, both the big items or really zero in on a standardized product that you would sell over and over. Let's talk about those bundt cakes, for instance. A
Hmm.
standardized product. Now, number one, now, so you were telling me before we got on, and we've talked about this in the past, and you sent me a pan, which I thought was a great idea. Like, why would I want to standardize some smaller type products so that, and then I know how to do it in my sleep, and I could do more transactions that way probably too, because they're easier. I can make more, right? So let's talk
Hmm.
about the bun cake as an example that you were talking about. What did
Yeah.
you see that would have been an awesome? And by the way, for those of you who are doing charcuterie, if you have a cottage food license, you could, everything we're telling you isn't stopping you from going and doing baked goods too. If
Yeah.
go do it.
Do some
What the heck?
cookies.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
other things. But
Cookies are
anyway,
easy.
yeah,
Get a good cookie recipe and work on it. But yeah, the bun cakes I only brought up because Patty and I were discussing different options that I have not seen. So for those of you who haven't been around or whatever, I do a lot of vendor craft fair markets and I sell dry soups. And I don't do baked goods, but I see a ton of people who do baked goods, whether it be sourdough or cupcakes or whatever. And I was stumbling across something, I don't remember where, because, social media is always
yeah,
overwhelming. Yeah. But somebody was showing how they did those little like mini bun cakes, and they're only about maybe 2 inches, 3 inches wide, and you get six or however many in a mold, a silicone mold. And they were putting them in, a box like you would cupcakes, and they're just drizzling them with whatever and then sprinkling. I mean, it was like to me the easiest thing. I would prefer doing those over doing cupcakes because there's no
they're
time
different.
consuming.
Yeah.
There's nothing time consuming about it as far as, making the batter, pouring it in the thing, baking the thing, flip it out, let it get cool, and then,
What are they
you know,
frosting? I mean, what are they putting on top, the ones that you've
most of
seen?
the ones that I had seen were just drizzle because you don't want to cover up the fancy look of the bun
Right,
cake. And
right.
so some bun cakes look like flowers. And
Hmm.
I actually bought one at I don't know where I was, a thrift store. And I was like, oh, cool. I actually was going to use it for candle making,
Hmm.
but it's a bun cake with a flower on it that looks more like a flower. So there are different intricate things you can do, but you don't want to make that design get buried. So
Yeah,
I would
okay.
just do a simple drizzle and throw some sprinkles on it. Call it good, you
Yeah, what
know.
about just shaking some powdered sugar on the top of it
It-
too? I mean, holy
yeah,
mackerel, that's easy.
whatever makes it look good. Pack them in
Right.
four in a box with a clear top on it, and boom, you're done. Throw
So
the
that
ball.
goes straight to real easy standardized products you could have in a few different flavors. But as we keep saying, is you don't have to have a huge menu of stuff because I
Mm-mm.
mean, just show, and then, just show people this is my standard things that I sell all the time. Put them on your site. They already know they're going to be delicious. They look wonderful and they're
Mm-hmm.
easy because you already know how to make them. And those things can be cooked in less than an hour,
Right,
and boom, you're
right.
done.
I just
Uh,
think it's a very simple concept. And, I'm all about as a food and beverage professional since 2000. So I'm going on 26 years now.
Yikes.
Um,
You're old.
I've seen it all. I mean, I always say I've seen it all, and I know that I have, and I'm always surprised when I see something and go, what in the world? But,
Yeah.
I will say that I've seen, the whole idea behind it is simplifying and perfecting.
Hmm.
So it really is about making it simple and making your life simple and the procedures that you put together to get to the end point.
Hmm.
And try not to overthink it, which is what most people do. I
Right.
can't stop that, but I can give you advice on how to keep it easy,
Yeah,
And this is
speaking
one
of
of them. This is one of them.
yeah, speaking of overthinking, I know just from watching all the videos now trying to learn how to make sourdough, which for the first time in 63, I'll be 63 in another few weeks. Holy crap, talk about old. But I've never made sourdough until this time in my life. And been watching a lot of videos on how to do it, but you talk about, making it simple, or it's because there's so many different ways you can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you get over worried about what you're doing. And I realized from the few mistakes that I made that they still turned out great. So
Yeah.
overthinking and stressing about it sometimes doesn't pay off. So I guess then pricing, when it comes to that, pricing could what you price for your items should be based on complexity. So yeah, you would charge more for, so say, an 8 foot table versus obviously a couple of dozen of, the bundt cakes. But I don't think that we're very good about really adding all that time in as far
Hmm.
as what it takes for that, the complexity and the concern and the stress levels that might take over when you're pricing. And then also the amount of time it takes to be the administrator for your sale. So
Hmm.
you've got somebody, 2 months, 3 months, ahead saying, okay, I want to order the table. Now you're communicating with them back and forth.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
time invested. And then maybe last minute changes that somebody might make to your order, which is obviously going to be come into play if you're going to be pricing and it's more complex, or delivery time that it's going to take. So you and I have been talking about how are we going to do all this to get it down to this event or to the wedding, and setting up, getting things ready, having it, given that we are actually attending this event, which, by the way, just to let you know, it is our one of my son's weddings. Our oldest is getting remarried, but you might think it's like the first wedding, but they did hire us to do the job, and which is even more stress because we want to make sure that it's extra special. So there is stress
Hmm.
involved when you have family involved,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we got to figure out, okay, we have to attend this wedding on top of the fact, and I'm kind of a mom here, but we have to be prepared to get this thing set up in the middle of all of that. And so how are you setting all that up, and how do you figure out pricing and delivery and setup, and are you going to charge for it? And it's a complex thing to think about versus, oh, I could just make, these bundt cakes and get them out the door and put them on the site and, get them ordered
Hmm.
in advance and all of that. There's still ordering involved if you're going to do like an online ordering thing for anything you're selling. But the more that you can set up so that it's less, it's more on automation as opposed to, oh, I got to text back and forth or communicate with people through my messenger or Instagram or whatever. I mean, that's not
Hmm.
really productive in general, but there's still time invested. So I hope we're getting to the understanding. I think when you're thinking about what do I want to do, we're really just trying to fill your brain up with a little bit of things to think about, because maybe what you're doing is you're not happy about what you're doing, but you're doing it because people are asking you for it. But that doesn't stop you from saying, I don't offer that anymore, right? I just don't like the stress about it. And that, I think there's so much to be said about it, right? I know it, like I said, whether it's food or not, I help, and I have passive ways that I make income personally in my marketing business, versus having to get on a call or a Zoom with somebody for a couple of hours. And when I get off, I'm so fried, I'm so
Hmm.
exhausted. And the people have worn me down sometimes, probably more often than not. So when you're pricing at you just have to remember that's going to take a lot. It's going to drain me more, right? So figure out if it makes sense for you to do that. Like, so how can we standardize some of what we're doing so that it's a little bit, no matter what we're selling? Like, what kind of ideas would we have to help us standardize stuff a little bit better? You think just starting with a preset menu and not straying off of it too much? And like, what other things could we do that we could standardize to make it a little bit better and less stressful on us?
Yeah, I mean, as you move through the process of building your business, and I know in my case, I tried different recipes for different things and see how they do. And if they don't seem as, you know, they don't seem like a big seller or something, I just pull them off. I'll
Yeah.
reduce their price and then pull them off, and if I still have leftover product to get rid of or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
that is one way to deal with it, is just I suggest for a home-based business, don't get too nutty on how big your menu is. I think it makes more sense to have the ability to adjust those menus, customize them to some extent, and try not to, like be like if you have special needs or whatever, understandable, but trying to stick to the same menu, whether it be, your bakery business or your charcuterie business. Just, I know in the past when I've run big restaurants and bars and God knows what else I've done, catering,
Yeah.
I forget, it's been so long.
Yeah.
So,
You
but
wanted to
I would
forget about
try
some
to,
of it, I'm sure.
all of my menus were always, create them with the chef if I wasn't the chef in charge, because a lot of times I was the food and beverage director. So create those menus at the beginning of the season and don't divert. Keep it the way it is. So that chef or the sous chef or whoever is working below me knows how to build their inventory and deal with it through the season. So, and it's all based on seasonality. You're not going to want to eat, I don't know, pineapple turnover cake in January in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yeah.
You're going to want to eat, like a chocolate Dutch chocolate cake because that's filling and it's
Right.
warm and it's wonderful. So my point being that, base it around whatever you've got seasonally going and try to stick with
Stick with it.
those
Yeah.
menus and don't mess with them.
I think there's so
Work,
much to be
find out
said.
what works and then stick with them,
Right. There's a lot to be said about that too, because if you have a staff, maybe you got one or two people that work with you while you're doing this, or even just yourself, you're so used to doing it that it gets faster and easier. So my
Right.
example on that is, you know how I did that. I did an event, charcuterie cart event in November, and I created a brand because it was my first one that I had done by myself. And it was an event that it was preset. They paid me for it. And so I put together a menu for that cart. Well, when I had to do the memorial last month, actually, it was earlier this month. It's only a few weeks ago now. I think about it. Yikes, time's flying. But anyway, that I took that menu and worked off of that. But what was cool about what I had done is I literally wrote down exactly everything I needed for 100 people, right? And or so for, I really started with 50, so it made it easier because I knew if I did, for me, I feel like I need to do like one and a half for an event like that. So if I had 50 people there, I planned for 75 servings just in the event that people wanted to come back for the 2 hours. Now, again, it comes down to how long you're serving them if you're going to do something like that. But I guess the point I'm making is it was way easier because I pulled that up and I already had it and I knew I only
Right.
needed four wheels of brie cheese for that head count. And actually, it was still over because I also think it depends on the event too, because if there's going to be more food there,
Right.
like what is the event? How much time are they actually going to have to be able to come up to you or whatever it is you're doing? But and again, it comes down to what you're doing, but you're getting faster at it because you already know how to prep, right? And you can train your people. So if you have someone helping you, including yourself, and I knew it was going to take me a certain amount of time, and I got done in that time. So I think there's just so much to be said about, learning off your previous things that you were doing. And like you said, have your menu and try not to stray off of it. And then once you get your shopping list down, you kind of adjust it based on that, and not have
Hmm.
too many
Hmm.
items because now you're just spreading yourself so thin. Especially if you're
Hmm.
by yourself, it's almost impossible. And then because you're doing that in the end, you're not making as much money as you think because it's taking you so much time to go back and start from scratch. Don't reinvent wheels, I guess, right? Makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. When you used to do catering, well, you didn't do a lot of, well, did you do a lot of catering? Because I don't know if you did. You did a lot of banquets when you were like up in Snow King, when you were up in Wyoming, right? A lot of banquet type stuff.
Everywhere I was. I mean, so even when I was down here in Paradise Valley at the golf courses and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
everywhere I went, I did a lot of catering. So banquets and catering go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So there is off-site catering and there is on-site catering. So most of mine were on-site, but I did a lot of off-site too. So, um, that was the primary of from the minute I stepped off of culinary school. I jumped right into the Phoenician and the
Hmm.
catering department. So,
Boy,
Anyways,
you work hard on those events.
almost this entire time, that's what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I still ran restaurants within satellite restaurants within the different places of the golf courses and the ski resorts.
Right.
So,
So when you do those big events like that, were they, did you have to reinvent wheels every time, or did you just give them a list of stuff? These are what we offer. You pick out from this list, and now you already know it's going to take this much food for every head, So you're,
yeah.
again, this goes to you if you're working from home because for, whatever it is you're selling, you need to have this much ingredients for this number of
Mhm.
people or whatever it is you're
Mhm.
doing, right? So, um,
Yeah.
what kind of
So,
tips and
and
advice
some of
would you
the
give to people from your catering experience?
trying to
Yeah,
figure out how much to buy or
on
ha
anything. Yeah,
yeah, for anything. I mean, it's experience. I always that's why I keep saying you just got to get out there and do it because you're never going to learn your business or your way of how you want to do business, and you may not do it as the next caterer down the road. So I can
yeah,
tell you a million things, and your brain is just going to get overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, it's about how you want to produce it. And I will say that at the beginning of every year or every season, like I said, I would develop the menus and very rarely strayed from them.
yeah,
If they wanted to stray from them, there was a real high upcharge. So that's how you kind of get out of that one. Then nobody wants to pay extra for something simple. You know,
right. Well, that's a
you
great.
don't want you don't want broccoli on the menu, and we're saying it's going to be a seasonal selection. And you don't want broccoli, and you just want asparagus, which is out of season. Well, guess what? You're going to pay 5 times the amount for that.
Hmm.
That kind of thing. That's an
Right.
extreme example. But
Right. And that's actually a great segue into my next comment is like you have permission to stop over accommodating people too,
mhm,
because I think in the end, if somebody says, I don't want that on my board or I want this in my cupcakes or whatever, and you don't have to say yes to everything. I mean, I think if you can think outside the box with things that are going to be a lot more reasonable in the world, but if you're going to start just turn it into a custom product, you're not saving yourself time and money and
mhm,
then of course you're stressing out because now you got to run out and get more ingredients or whatever it is at the last second, especially if it's the last thing. But I would say more choices probably is not actually increasing your income because you're
no.
spending more time and energy, both mentally and physically and financially, uh, then you've got to go figure out, okay, if I'm going to add the asparagus on there versus the broccoli, is it actually going to pay off for me because I'm going to quote them this and I'll probably end up spending more than I thought I needed to,
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like, but I just think there's just so much of that. So just, I agree with you. Stick with as much as you possibly can.
And do what you're comfortable with.
Hmm.
And the other thing about that is that if you had too many different products, you don't want to be the Cheesecake Factory of the world.
Oh
So
God, Nightmare City going to those
yeah, I
places,
mean, you
right?
go into Cheesecake Factory, how the hell do you even order? I don't even know if they're around anymore, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
when they bring you a menu that's like this thick and most of it is ads on top of that. But, they bring you this menu and you're flipping through going, I don't even like, I just want to leave. I just
Yeah,
like I don't
close
need
your
this
eyes
kind of
and
pressure
point.
in my life.
It's stressful just to look at their
So,
menu.
right, nobody needs that. So, chicken, steak, fish,
Yeah,
keep
what
it
more do you need?
simple. Pasta,
It's kind of like when
salad.
the kids were little, when Toys R Us was around, and I brought this up before, but I used to absolutely hate going to Toys R Us. I'd rather go to Walmart or Target because there's a lot less variety, and I don't have a choice. So I got to take whatever's here and go with it. And you go to Toys R Us back in the day, for those of you who don't know what it is, it was a massively huge toy store that the size of like Disneyland. Uh, and it was nuts in there, right? So I just think good call on that. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
good idea to do that.
Well, and
So
inventory dictates that if you have that many products, you have to have it in stock, or you've got to be prepared to go buy it, and that just makes an infinite amount of work. So reduce those menus, get it down to what you're comfortable with and what you want to sell and because you'll be more passionate about whatever it is you put on your menu versus what people tell you to put on there.
Exactly. Passionate and confident in what you're doing, right? So
Hmm.
let's talk just before we finish up, let's talk about if we did want to go with the large order type things, some sweet spot type large order type event or whatever could be corporate clients where you would hook up with corporate clients and let's say they always wanted lunch served, once or twice a week or whatever, that they would bring preset lunch boxes in or something, sandwiches or charcuterie boxes full of stuff. If you can hook up with those kind of folks,
Hmm.
uh, now this is pretty consistent, what you're going to do all the time. That would be a great big type ordering type, large order type products, right? Maybe that you can hook up with event planners who do the same kind of things all the time, at the like for weddings, for instance, stuff that you would just offer and it would be on your menu, right?
Hmm.
Um, Higher budget type celebrations, I guess, our mother is going to be turning 90, which you and I didn't even get a chance to talk about here because I've been calling around. We're going to be in the Chicagoland area. She wants to go for her 90th, which how we're going to get her there is going to be a whole nother story. But um, that's where she grew up. And anyway, so that would be like a higher budget type celebration where we're trying to figure out how are we going to cater 100 or so people that might be there. And so, those could be types of things that you could, offer up. But again, get your preset menus together and just show them what you have to offer depending on what you're selling. So if you are somebody who provides desserts, to events like that, hook up with some event planners or corporate clients and say, hey, we offer these things. I keep going back to the real estate agents, partly because that to me would be somewhat big if you can, because the agents will give you consistent business over and over. And
Hmm.
if you just have like a preset closing gift, whatever it is, and I can say
Yeah,
this because I am one, it
I
would
think
be
that's a,
amazing.
yeah,
The house closing
I
gifts
do
are
think so.
huge. Yeah, but you can hook up with them and you can also show up for broker opens and things that they do. Not, those aren't usually massively big, but here's what I'll tell you. I would go, and I was just telling Andrea, I had somebody from a housing community contact me through a referral friend of mine, and they have for independent living. Well, it was not, it was, this particular community was a 55 and older housing, like people that are still really active, not like where mom's at, where it's a little more slowed down. She's in a building, like apartment type thing. But anyway, point I'm making is hook up with some of those communities because those kind of 55 and older communities sometimes have more than one community in their housing communities. So they might have four or five different type builders that are in those communities that people go into. I know where we live, it's huge because we're in a massive vacation retirement area. But you can hook up with those folks and then say, I offer these different things. So,
Hmm.
ironically, they're contacting us for music and carts and also to teach. You're going to love this, friends. Teach a charcuterie class to their 55 and older clients. So they've
Hmm.
asked me for all three of these things. So for the various different communities that they have. So head over to the Toll Brothers. I mean, I'm just giving names. I don't know where everybody has all over the place, but Toll Brothers here is huge, and they offer a lot. Shea Homes, KB Homes, which is one of the big ones. Anyway, go into some of those communities and say, hey, if you guys do, and obviously the senior living ones are good because they're always trying to entertain their people. So I would be
Right.
getting in there and doing that. Let's go the other direction now and talk about if you wanted to do kind of smaller items, the kind of items like gift type items. Do you have any? I have my gift ideas, which everyone's heard before. Any other type gift items that, depending on what you sell, obviously, what could you put
Well,
together for gifts?
yeah, I mean anything that you sell can be created
A
as a
gift.
as a gift item. I mean, there's the you could go endless with that one. I see a lot of people in our different groups, not only our group, but the group the groups that we may belong to try and get different ideas and see what people are thinking. I just love the whole idea of the charcuterie bouquets, which is coming up. I know we talked about it on one
Ah,
of our
yeah,
previous podcasts.
yeah.
The charcuterie bouquets that are basically a skewer with a bunch of, things that kind of look flowery and just pretty. And I think for that, for like Valentine's Day or any birthdays or anniversaries or whatever, just the coolest thing. I have
Mm-hmm.
never had an opportunity or had a request or even thought about putting that out there yet, just because I've got so many other things that are selling that I don't worry about it. But if I was new to it or really wanted to create a genre or a funnel for people to go
Get into
to,
your world.
I
Yeah.
would shoot for that. I just think that is just the best idea.
Yeah, I
And they
almost
can
did
be
that last week
tiny,
when,
they can
yeah,
be big, they can be
yeah.
whatever. They're just super cool.
Well, and I've seen I mean, you've seen, I've seen these. We could make cupcake bouquets easily
Hmm.
for weddings and things that you just you staple together plastic cups basically into a
Yeah.
bouquet type shape and stick the cupcakes inside of that. So that's another way to do that. Yeah, standing out like that. I've also seen where they've just done it on a flat inside of a box where they
Yeah.
have cut the holes in the box to hold the cupcakes so they're not sliding all over around, but then they're printing out something that makes it look like the stems. So if you haven't seen that, you should check that out if you're a baker at all. But I was just sitting here thinking you could totally do that with almost any kind of baked good that you make. I mean, honest, make a bouquet
Yeah.
out of any kind of baked good that you
Yeah.
have.
You could.
But that would stand out and that would sell. Like you, I think your big thing is if you're going to do something, try to do something a little different than everybody
Yeah.
else is doing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stress that enough. There are so many people doing the same thing. And so, especially if you decide to do what I do, which is attend vendor fairs the way that I do, they will stop accepting at a certain point. They only allow a certain number of sourdough or cupcake makers, or, in this case, we can't. I mean, I have seen people do charcuterie. It's a tough call because they have to bring a generator and they have to have refrigerators and all this jazz. But I have seen people do it, with pre-packed items and things like that. But the point being, whatever it is you're going to do and however you're going to create it, first of all, have a passion for it. Second of all, make sure it's different than everyone else's.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't get through the door and people
Yeah.
would just walk right past you.
You'll
So
stand out for
you
sure.
gotta
Absolutely.
stand out, gotta
Yeah.
stand out. And I
Yeah.
love the bouquet thing, but that's me. So,
Well, like I said, I mean, I think when you're deciding what you want to do, you've got to first determine, does it fit your personality? Does it fit your life, right? Is it something that you really want to do as you have passion for and you feel confident doing it? And
mhm.
then, and does it fit into all those, does it tick all those boxes, as people say? Because if they do, you're gonna be wonderful. People are gonna love what you're doing because you love what you're doing.
Right.
And it's so easy when you are kind of doing something a little different to be able to just post it out in social media land and have them just, when they're scrolling on the toilet or wherever they're at, stop and take a second look. Not that they should be, they're all scrolling on the toilet, we know that, but you want them to stop while they're in there and take a look at your what you got going,
Yeah,
right?
they're laying in bed at 3 a.m. like Patty and
Like,
me.
yeah, like you and I are always doing. Yeah, I mean, I sign up for so much stuff in the middle of the night. It's ridiculous. And then I wonder why I'm getting texts in the middle of the night because that stuff happens when you automate it, right? Stuff's coming through. But anyway, I guess the key here is have whatever you're going to do make most sense to you, and don't stray off of what you feel comfortable doing because in the end, it's probably not going to make you more money. It's probably going to stress you out more.
Mhm.
Stick with what you love doing. If you love being creative, try to really throw some of that into what you're doing, and you'll have a lot more fun. And
Mhm.
I think you'll sell more too because everything you're feeling is going to come out in your product, and people are going to know that, right? And they're gonna latch onto it because they can see it. I know
Yeah.
just from this last few months of me doing a little bit more social media posting, if you can try to post every single day, even just showing people what you're doing in your kitchen, and getting them familiar with what you offer. Honestly, I'm not doing any kind of advertising for my food side of my business. I am doing a little for my other marketing for my real estate coaching stuff, but just even doing that has brought so much more people to me organically because I'm starting to show people what it is I love to do, right?
Yeah.
And now the word's getting out, and that's how I got this referral from this other community because it was somebody who saw me on Facebook. One of my friends said, "Hey, they were talking to somebody else, and that person said, I'm looking for something." And my friend goes, "Oh, you've got to talk to her." And that's how
Yeah.
it happens. But they're not going to know about it unless you putting yourself out there a little bit. I know Andrea hates social, but
Hmm.
how much more business she does it a different way in general because she's getting seen physically out in the world at her events that she does. But
Yeah.
if you're not doing those, especially if you're in less than negative degree weather right now, which I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, I don't want to tell you it's 80 here today in Arizona, where I'm at anyway.
Where
Um,
she's at,
yeah.
65 here.
Oh my God, it's nice today. And yeah, I feel sorry because they're freezing everywhere else in the country, so I'm sorry. But come out and visit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you got so many opportunities, and now's a great time, especially if you are held up in your house, to start really thinking about, what can you do that can make you stand out and to get out of the daily grind and start doing something you really love and make money doing
Mhm.
it from home.
Mhm.
There's so much you can do from home. I'm getting a new computer. I told my husband I'm going to spend $800 to $900, which is kind of out of the box for me. But I told him the other day I'm getting a new computer. He's on the hunt. You think about my entire business is on a computer. For
Yeah.
99% of what I do, I can spend a few bucks on a new laptop, and feel comfortable with it. So that because I know, I mean, you've got what you're investing in yourself will pay off, right? And
Hmm.
that's, not that we want you to go out and buy all the most expensive equipment in your kitchen, but
And
if
you
you
don't need
feel
to.
like you really want to do that, go get that big bread oven machine,
Hmm.
bread oven machine, does that exist? Or your big dehydration machine that you have to dehydrate vegetables. Go spend the money on it because it'll pay off in the end because you're
Hmm.
passionate about doing it, right? So anyway, any other last minute tips and advice that you have before we wrap her up for today?
I don't think so. I think we hit, the beginning of the year kind of. I think it's great to talk about the fact that there are so many people stuck at home right now because it's so crappy outside. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I feel bad for you all. But with that being said, use that time and be
Yep.
productive and, make a decision on where you want to go. If you're listening to us, you're either thinking about it or you're already in the thick of it. You could be
Yep.
either one. And just get out there and do it. You're never going to know until you just go do it.
Right.
And that's the biggest piece of advice that I have to anybody because I wasn't an entrepreneur until a few years ago. And now I wonder why I spent all my time working for other people and making money for other people when I didn't have to.
Right.
So,
I know. Oh my gosh. I've been an entrepreneur myself since 2004 now. And
yeah,
my life is just so much better. I've got total control over everything I'm
yeah,
doing. I can choose, I have an issue with wanting to do everything, and that's a problem of mine. And I do have it, if you happen to find me out there, you go, wait, is she doing charcuterie? Is she baking? Is she
selling
singing? Oh,
houses.
now what is she
Yeah.
doing? Oh, wait, she's teaching real estate. I mean, yeah, but that's my
I'm not
brain.
quite that diverse, just so everybody knows. I don't stretch that spectrum, but
But you still
I
have a
stay
lot
with
you
what I
want to do. So, yeah.
yeah, I stay with what I know and but once you do it, you all will be much happier in the end, even if it is just a side hustle to get you through this financial crisis,
Yeah.
affordability crisis that we have.
Affordability. Yeah.
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 I don't know if it's affordability or groceries, just saying.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but we want to help you get through it. And
Yep.
so,
Yeah, and so if you're at all interested in anything we do, and you want to start getting yourself going, and you haven't yet, you might want to tap into all of our resources. Go to grazingbiz.com/resources. We've got a number of things there that you can tap into and more coming. So we're here to help you out. And if you love what we're doing, and hit us up, share the podcast with others, and give us a
yeah,
like or two. That would be amazing. because our little podcast is moving up the podcast world. So,
It's crazy.
anyway, Sista, we'll talk again real soon. Glad you're home and feeling better. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.